Thousands of dogs met horrific deaths in the name of scientific progress. This was especially true in Soviet Russia, where the so-called Tower of Silence was constructed to study the physiology of living organisms. The name of this tower speaks for itself. Scientists were interested in the purity of the experiment, while the dogs were desperate to escape, as living in complete isolation from the world was unbearable. The experiment itself proceeded as follows. In a dark and soundproof torture chamber, the dog was placed in a special apparatus that completely immobilized it. Then a coin-sized hole was made in the dog's stomach, through which food would spill out, preventing the dog from digesting it. In this way, scientists studied the mechanism of digestion in mammals, but this was only the tip of the iceberg. Reviving the head of a dead dog. Science has long established that organs can be revived, even sometime after the death of an animal. For example, a heart taken from a dog's corpse continues to function in artificial conditions just as it would in a living organism. The same applies to lungs taken from a dead animal. A special device inflates and deflates the lungs, filling them with fresh air. As a result, the isolated lungs of a dog breathe as if they continue to support gas exchange in a living organism. The head of a dog or another animal can also live in an isolated state. With the help of an artificial heart, arterial blood is pumped into the dog's head, maintaining the necessary metabolism for the head to stay alive. An isolated head can exist for hours, responding to external stimuli such as the touch of a feather, taste stimuli, light, and even sound.
Leave a comment on whether such experiments should be conducted for the sake of scientific progress or not, and don't forget to like.
Reviving a whole organism. To revive an organism, it must first be killed, and this is how it was done. First, the dog is put under anesthesia, and all its blood is drained through a neck vessel. After the blood is removed, the electrocardiogram starts to drop, and eventually the heartbeat stops. The dog takes its last breath and shows no further signs of life. The doctor then declares the dog dead, but before beginning the revival process, lab technicians connect a special device called an autoinjector to the dog. This device functions similarly to a heart, using special pumps to circulate blood. The arterial pump is connected to an artery, and the venous pump to a vein. This is how the device sustains the organism's life. While I explain the device's operation, about 10 minutes have passed since the animal's death, and the scientists are prepared to save the dog. The boss gives the go-ahead to revive the dog. With the autoinjector, blood is pumped back into the dog, creating circulation within the dog's body. After a few minutes, the dog's condition approaches normal. It breathes and shows all signs of life. The experiment can be considered successfully completed. Now we just need to wait for the dog to recover from the anesthesia and return to its normal life. Two-headed dog monster. For these experiments, an adult dog and a small puppy were usually used. The puppy's head, with its heart removed, was transplanted onto the neck of the adult dog. During the stitching process, the dogs developed a shared circulatory system, and the puppy's head started to live off the adult dog's breathing and blood circulation. After such an operation, both dog heads responded equally well to external stimuli. Both heads would stick out, their tongues in the heat, eat, drink, and one head would regularly try to bite the other's ears. There was even a recorded case where the puppy beat the adult dog so hard that the adult dog shook its head violently, although the transplanted puppy head could drink. It wasn't connected to the adult dog's digestive system, so everything the puppy drank spilled out of its neck onto the floor. Despite the successful head transplants, most of the dogs died quickly, which negatively impacted Demihov's reputation. His colleagues considered him a mad fanatic lacking proper surgical training. The state even decided to confiscate his apartment. Nevertheless, these experiments laid the groundwork for future successful human organ transplants. Biorobot with a dog's head. I couldn't find confirmation of this project, but I am almost certain that such projects existed. According to legend, a secret Soviet project to create a cyborg robot began in 1958. Scientists, doctors and engineers worked on it in strict secrecy. The project's goal was to create the perfect cyber super soldier with firepower comparable to an atomic bomb explosion. The robot's construction included a command center, which was the head of an animal or a human, Bryukhanenko's autojector, a device for artificial life support, super strong armor providing protection from injuries, and weapons, the details of which remain classified. The project was named Collie, after the breed of dogs used in the experiments. However, as I mentioned earlier, proving the existence of this project is currently impossible. The first dog in space. In the 1950s, the Soviet leadership set a clear goal to surpass the Americans in space exploration. The ultimate aim was the complete conquest of space by Soviet humans. Achieving this ambitious goal required sacrifices, and there were many. About 20 out of 48 dogs died as a result of the experiments. Laika, the dog sent to space, was the only one knowingly sent to certain death, because the technology for returning to Earth had not yet been developed. According to the plan, Laika was supposed to live in space for a week, in complete isolation but with sufficient food, water and air. However, just 6 hours after reaching orbit, the dog suffocated due to cabin overheating. Imagine spending 6 hours alone, stressed, in a small stuffy capsule and almost in weightlessness. In honor of Laika's sacrifice, the USSR issued a cigarette brand named after her. Notably, the spacecraft's technical parameters limited the animal's weight to 6 to 7 kilograms and height at the withers to 35 centimeters. Interestingly, biologists deemed purebred dogs too pampered and recommended using stray dogs, which had endured harsh survival conditions. The dog cosmonaut squad was mainly recruited from the streets. Essentially, this dog was in a capsule the size of a washing machine, equipped with a chemical air regeneration device designed to last 7 days, and an automatic feeder that opened the container lid with a jelly-like nutritional mixture twice a day. The Sputnik Korea Laika made 2,370 orbits around the Earth and burned up in the atmosphere. Meanwhile, a government commission doubted that Laika died so early and ordered experiments under similar conditions on Earth, resulting in the death of 2 more dogs. Thus, the negligence and excessive ambitions of the Soviet leadership led to the death of at least 20 innocent dogs. Mass killing of dogs for poison development. It is believed that Russian scientists killed and tortured thousands of dogs in horrific experiments aimed at creating the nerve agent used to poison former Russian spy Sergei Skripal and his daughter Yulia in Salisbury. Animals were forced to wear gas masks and walk on treadmills until they died from exposure to the powerful nerve agent Novichok. The experiments were conducted at the Chemical Research Institute. This complex was built by the Soviet Union in Uzbekistan for the production of Novichok. American expert Judith Miller, who visited the complex after its closure, expressed her horror. "I saw hundreds of small cages where dogs were kept on 25 miniature treadmills. The dogs were strapped to them and stuffed into gas masks. Thousands of animals died from exposure to the agent. Incidentally, this poison was used to poison a well-known Russian opposition leader, Alexei Navalny. Alexei Navalny died on February 16, 2024, due to heart failure." Well, that's all from me. Which experiment do you find the most terrifying? Let me know in the comments. Subscribe to the channel, give likes, dislikes and unsubscribes. Bye bye.